All right, we are rock and rolling. It's all you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our business seminar series. My name is Leslie Mason. I'm the library director for Carteret County Public Library System, and we are thrilled to have Bob Graham with us for yet another week of business thought and theory and practice.
Awesome. Thank you, Leslie. It's a privilege. You know that. I love working with you on anything we get to collaborate on, and this has been fun so far, and we're going to have even more fun tonight. We got Tammy with us. Tammy's going to be front and center. She's going to get lots of attention. She'll love it. So I want to set the stage for you. If you've watched the first two, the first one was where we talked about what you were trying to sell, or in the case of you, Tammy, as a nonprofit, what you're trying to promote, what you're trying to get people to invest their time and effort into. That was our first week, and we looked at it from your perspective as the person leading that organization, whether you're the startup owner, whether you're the manager, the leader, or in your case, Tammy, the executive director. Last week, we talked about it from the perspective of the customer. What is the customer looking for? What problem are you solving for the customer? Because I could argue that Habitat for Humanity puts great housing opportunities in front of people who can't afford them. But a person who's looking for a home would probably describe it as a lifesaver. I never thought I would be able to live in a house that I owned. And suddenly this becomes available. And while those two are very similar, they're also very different. And what so often happens when we're leading is we get in our sort of us speak, our jargon, what we think, and we don't factor in what the people we're trying to serve are thinking and saying. And the closer we can get to their language, the more they're going to understand where we can help them. I can talk to you. The best story I have of this is I was at a networking event a couple of years ago, and a guy said, "I'm looking for an attorney." He had introduced himself. He was doing real estate. "I'm looking for an attorney." Everyone introduces themselves. We start milling around. Guy walks up to him and says, "I know a lawyer for you." He said, "No, I want an attorney." Turned around and walked the other way. A lawyer and an attorney are the same thing. But this guy wanted an attorney, and the guy offered him a lawyer, and they were talking a different language. And so the connection was missed. And I think we do that in business all the time. We talk to ourselves and we talk to the people that understand us, and we have the false belief that if we know the thing we solved, and everyone has to, we're so amazing, we've solved the world's problems, so you need to figure out what we're talking about. And then we get frustrated because people don't buy from us or don't support us. That's the conundrum that we run into. So tonight we're going to talk about some ways to talk about your business that make it resonate with people. And then we're also going to look at some places for where you can find customers, or in your case, Tammy, donors, people who want to get their hands dirty doing work, whatever it is. So that's what we have set up today. Two things. One, what are we going to say to people a little more specifically? And two, where can we find them? And that's a tall order, but we're going to move quickly. And of course, I didn't say this before, but if you have questions, I think, Leslie, this week, will you put my email address in there for them? If they have questions, they can reach out to me. I meant to say it last week. Hey, there she is. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. Nice to join us. Now we're international again. This is exciting. So we're talking about how we can help other people. And one of the things that we have to talk about more is that language. So I would encourage you, if you haven't done this already, sometime in the next couple of days to a week, go find some of your target customers, those people that you think should be buying from you, and just ask them, hey, when I talk about Habitat for Humanity, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Restore.
What's that?
The restore.
The restore. There you go. And if that's the first thing that comes to mind, I would build off of that. If I were at a networking event, I'd say, you know, I'm with Habitat for Humanity. You may know the Restore. A lot of people know that and they use it, but we're so much more than that. Now you've acknowledged what they know, and now you're adding to it. You're not discounting it, because if you go, oh, I want to talk about the Restore, so I'm not even going to mention it, and they say it, and you're like, oh, geez, no, we're not that. That's a small part of who we are. No, if that's what they know about what you do, you have to build off it. So if you're talking about wellness and someone says, you ask them, so what's the first thing you think about with wellness? Crunchy granola eating people out in California. Okay, thank you, that's really good. And I would get up, if I were networking and talking about wellness, be like, you know, some of you probably think that I'm a crunchy granola eating California person with no cares in the world. I'm really not. I have a care which is helping people be healthier. So we take on that thing that the person doesn't want us to address, and we diffuse it right away. It's something that politicians are very good at. They want to move to their topic, and they want to get rid of the topic they don't want to talk about. I was watching here in Maryland, the governor was talking about some things, and he got into a little dust up about how many doses were going to the biggest city in the state. And he gave a beautiful 3-minute presentation today at the start of his press conference that was basically, I'm not as bad as you think I am. And now I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. And he didn't say that, but that's certainly what you could take from it. So I'm sure, Leslie, you've done this because you've had a little political career, right? And am I speaking something you're familiar with?
Very much so, indeed.
And I would assume also, if you're going to the county government with a budget, and your budget's more than they're expecting, you're starting already from, hey, you probably weren't expecting us to come in this high, but here are the great things we're doing. And those great things cost money. And if you want to thrive in community, you need to have a good library. And unfortunately, books keep getting more expensive. And we've got to buy books, and we've got to buy electronic resources and computers and pay our staff. So you've diffused that. It's awfully hard to get caught in the negative if the person's kind of steamrolled past it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge. I have found too, when you acknowledge the negative association that people have with you automatically, it's almost that you've given them the opportunity to be part of the solution, or have this expert opinion about what it is they think they know. If you dismiss it, you'll never get them back. So, you know, if somebody has had a negative experience with the library, or they have a misconception about the library, you know, unless you address it and give them that time and space with it, they'll never get past it. You'll never be able to win them over. They'll never be a patron. So yeah,
it's hard to be upset about something when the person you think is going to be upset when you tell them you're upset doesn't get upset. People don't know what to do with that. It's just human nature, because we're like, oh, she's from the library. You know, I couldn't get that book for like 6 months because you don't have enough copies. And she goes, yeah, sure, happens. I've got books I'm looking for. It's been 6 months. Join the club. I'm the head librarian. I'm waiting. I'm in line behind you. Don't tell me. I'm with you, man. Now it's a whole different discussion, right? Because you've aligned. And I think where we often make our mistake is we devalue, like you said, people's point of view. And most of the time, people's point of view is like that, and it's based on anecdotal or incomplete information. You know, oh, I have a friend who's a Republican, and if you bring up Habitat for Humanity, because Jimmy Carter's involved with it, it's a non-starter. It's like, dude, really? I mean, the guy's he hasn't been president for what, 40 years, and you still hold. I think he's kind of moved past that. But once you acknowledge and go, okay, but you know, they kind of do some really great work. You know, they're getting their hands dirty in a place that, frankly, I don't want to get my hands dirty.
Right.
Thank goodness they're there for us, because if I had to do it, that's not good. I'm not a carpenter or any other 70s music group. Ha ha, there's an old joke. So that's really critical to how we think about our messaging, is understanding where people are coming from. And the more we do that, and the more you get comfortable with it. And when I say comfortable, people say to me, I do some business coaching, and people are like, okay, if you're so good as a coach, how many businesses have you run? It's like 2. How many millions of dollars have you made? None. What? And I'm going to trust you. I'm like, doesn't mean I'm not good. Actually means I might know some of your problems. And so I diffuse it. Or if someone talks about the price of what I do for them, I diffuse that by saying, hey, a lot of people tell me that my prices seem really high. But then when I turn it around and say to them, you're paying me, X number of dollars per hour. But if I help you, you could be a millionaire. You could be a billionaire. And I don't get a percentage of that. You get everything I do to teach you, and then you go off and do great things. I don't call you up in 3 years and go, hey, it's Bob here. I understand the help I gave you 3 years ago made you a multimillionaire, so I'd like my third. And then they go, oh, wow, really? I go, just saying. Now, if you want to do the other way, you can pay me less now and give me a third of your profits over the next 10 years. I'm cool with that. And they're like, no, you're okay. No, I'd rather pay the out. Okay, done. So, and you can almost have fun with it. Like when I'm talking about coaching with people, they always get scared, because what they're really agreeing to when they get coached is that 1, they're not perfect. 2, they've run out of solutions. And 3, they need help. Those 3 things are far more powerful to them than anything I can say, except when I say, when I hired my first coach, I remember being so scared. I thought I was the worst failure in the world. I didn't think I could run a business. I thought this was the end. And then the next day I had my first call with the coach, and the world opened up to me in a way I never imagined possible. And they're like, really? Tell me more about that. And so if we really understand our customer, we can put ourselves in their shoes, either because we've been there ourselves or because we can be empathetic. And empathy is, one of the soft skills that often gets lost in the shuffle. But when we think about empathy, it doesn't mean you have to have had the same experience. It just means you can access something similar. So if Leslie tells me that, my grandmother died last week, and all my grandparents are living and no one in my world has ever died, but I saw a movie on TV where a character died and I reacted to that, I call up that memory. Oh, that must be really tough, Leslie. How are you doing with that? Oh, it's really difficult. Yeah, I can imagine. And that's where I think people get into a trap with empathy. You don't have to have the same experience. You just have to be able to access the same feeling as the person is feeling. So if they're feeling frustration, you find a time in your life when you're frustrated and you share that with them. And the other thing that works really well is, I understand. That might be tough. Oh, wow. Oh, so that's how you think of Habitat for Humanity. Oh, wow. That's your experience with the library. That's, wow. You really, boy, that's not what I was expecting. Yeah, you have a reason to be upset with the library. Tell you what, though, I'd love to work with you to change that opinion. I'd love to be the one that in a year from now, when we ask you the same question, you go, oh, library is awesome. It's amazing. So what can I do right now to help you have a better view of this? When you put that in the person's hands, most of the time they back away. They have no earthly idea. It's easier to complain than find solutions. And when you put it in their lap and say, tell me the solution and I'm all ears, rarely does anyone give you a solution. And if they do give you a solution, it's often something really simple like, I have $20 in book fines and I just, I can't really afford it. Okay, you know what? I have some ways. I can fix that problem for you. I don't know if Leslie takes $20 out of her pocket, puts in the kitty. I don't know if she's got a magic code that I have no idea, but I know her well enough to know that if that was what stood between someone and their ability to use those resources, she would find a way. Even if she called me and said, Bob, you made that stupid example, and then someone heard that, and now I'm at $20. You owe me $20. I'd send her $20. And for all of us, there are ways that we can help. And when we do these things, if Leslie does that, the word spreads. The people around her see her do that and go, wow, it's not just words. She's serious about making this available to everyone. The patrons see it because word spreads. People heard it. They were in the building. Word spreads a lot. And that's part of how we can build our reputation. So much of what we think now is reputation is based on what your website looks like, what your Instagram looks like, what your Facebook looks like, what YouTube looks like. Those all play a role. But I'll tell you right now, what plays the biggest role is your actions with your customer day in, day out. That is the deal breaker. If you're going out and talking to people and saying, hey, call me anytime, I always answer my phone, and I call you 3 times and you don't answer your phone, you're not living up to what you said. You're setting yourself up to fail. So that's, if you're making any kind of promises to people, really be able to honor them. I worked with a company where they said, we're going to answer the phone on the first ring. Okay, they all agreed to it. Next day, I called 4 times. 4 rings, minimum. They didn't have a way to know it was me. I'm like, guys, you can't just say it. You got to live it. Am I making sense so far? Any questions so far? Okay, great. Then I'm going to shift to the other part of this. The other part of this tonight is discovering where your customers are, where the people you want to serve are. And often we think about it that we just put a website up, we send emails out to our database and all that, and we're going to find people. The world that we're in right now, that doesn't work really well. What has worked really well for me, and I've got 825 people in a Facebook group to prove it over the last 11 and a half months, is I've gone out and looked where the people are. So I'm looking for entrepreneurs, business leaders, and owners. I went out to Facebook, I went to other organizations, and I literally focused my attention and time on where those people are. I also got to know bankers that funded startups and said to them, hey, do you ever get people that you want to give money to, but they don't really have a great plan? Yeah, all the time. I'd love to talk to them. Here's my card. The bank does it because the bank wants that. They want to give money to people who are going to be successful, and often people don't have the tools. So as I'm talking for the next couple of minutes, start thinking about where the people you're looking for congregate, because my theory is 2 ways to get in front of those people that are the least costly and the most effective. One is find the connectors. So Leslie is connected to lots of libraries. I like working with libraries. I treat Leslie very well for that reason alone. No, there are plenty of reasons. But I know she has access to others that I can benefit from that association. So she's someone that if she calls me and says, Bob, I'm doing this thing, I can't pay top dollar, can you work with me? Absolutely. Because it's going to come back to me tenfold. I worked with a carpenter, high-level carpenter in Baltimore. I mean, beautiful work, like minimum project, $50,000. all kinds of like museum quality. He was struggling to find customers, and we realized that there were two groups of people that he could talk to that were the best. One, high-level realtors, high-level financial advisors. Those people were plugged in to his audience. So he joined a financial services association that met at a really nice hotel every month for a happy hour. And this is a guy who dresses like a carpenter, but he dressed up to go down there and do his thing. He'd be like, oh, hey, so are you financial? No, I'm a carpenter. Oh, really? Yeah, and I'm looking, do you know anyone? He left each of those events, those happy hours, with 7 or 8 leads. Half of the people were the actual financial advisors, like, wow, it's only $50,000. Yeah, I'd love to redo my closet room or whatever. Okay, yeah. Other times it'd be like, oh, I have a friend. He just bought a house. He hates the way that room looks. You should talk to him. And then realtors, because the realtors were the ones who knew who was selling, knew who had bought, and knew when someone moved into a house and they said, this is not going to be the way that library looks. We're going to change that. Not big library room. And so the realtor would know and say, hey, I've got someone that you can talk to if you're serious about that. And the reason they said it was at the time they were making the sale, that was standing in the way of the sale. I love the house, but that library room is just not going to cut it. Well, I know someone who does really great work. I'd love to connect you. I've got his card in my purse. Can I give that to you? And maybe you talk to him and see if he can work something out with you and you go forward on the property. The other thing about connectors, they like to connect people. Leslie likes to connect people. It gives her satisfaction. It makes her feel important, knowledgeable, on top of things. I know that because I've seen her do it. When you can find those people that's soul satisfying, the joy they get from doing it is far greater than the money you might feel like you owe them. Like, oh, you just got me my biggest customer. That's not, you could send them 20%. I've sent people 20% of what I've gotten when they've referred me to something that's big. And they always give me a check back. No, I'm just happy that you were able to help them and they were able to get the help they needed. Only one person cashed the check. And that was a person who barely knew me and didn't really care. It was just literally one of those throwaway, he had my card in the pocket, he handed it to someone, said, this might be what you're looking for. He didn't even really introduce us. And I had said, if someone gives me a really good lead, I'll give you the money, blah, blah, blah. And he called. Hey, I hear he called you, so when do I get my money? The people who are good connectors, that's not how they roll. They call and say, hey, Bob, you talked to John. How'd that meeting go? What did you think? Was he what I told? Is he what you're looking for? Do you think you can help him? And every one of us has connectors in our lives. And if you're looking to hire people, good people, connectors are the #1 way to recruit people. Far better than LinkedIn, a heck of a lot cheaper than LinkedIn and Indeed and Facebook and all that. It's a whole lot easier just to go to 15 people and say, hey, do you know anyone that would be a really good librarian? Do you know anyone getting ready to, or dissatisfied and they're a librarian? And the people that know Leslie, if she says that to them, they're going to be like, wow, I like Leslie. Wow, she's got an opportunity. It's probably worth dredging my mind. And it's, research says that we know between 100 and 200 people well enough to connect them. That's every one of us. I think real connectors, it gets up near 1,000. And I've connected today, I kept track because I knew I was doing this tonight. I've connected 4 people to 4 other people in my orbit. So today I've touched 8 lives in my network. just through the course of the day. I talk to someone, they're like, hey, I'm looking for a accountant that can do my business taxes. Got the person. Someone else, I'm looking for someone who can print shirts for me. We're doing this thing. It came up kind of quickly. I need him by next Friday. Got the guy, silk screen guy. Here he is. Someone else was looking for a person to buy a used car from. And I knew someone. And the fourth person was looking for a speaker. And I've spoken for her 3 or 4 times. And I connected her with a cybersecurity speaker. And she called me and practically broke down and cried because she had no idea what she was going to do. And I told her when I met her 3 years ago, hey, I'm a resource. Beyond just speaking for you, when you have something you can't solve, call me and let's talk through it. She calls me twice a year. I've solved some problems for her, and she has found a way for me to come down and speak every year. And she pays for my hotel for 4 days. She introduces me to the right people. That's the synergy that you get when you have these connectors in your life. And it's not like, the thing I have to fight myself is the transactional quality of it. I'm always like, oh, this person's brought me, $8,309. And all I've ever done for them is given them a little piece of advice. Well, how do I know? Like I helped someone with the resume, which is one of the things I can do. They had referred me to a couple of clients. I helped them with the resume. They got a job. The job paid them about $60,000 more per year. I found that out a year later. And they're like, I guess I owe you some money. I'm like, no, I feel great. Now I don't feel guilty anymore that I owe you. They're like, why would you owe me? I'm like, well, I helped you with your resume. It took like an hour. You've gotten me 4 clients. I made a chunk of money. And like, no, you did that. No one could have done what you did. So we don't know what that value is to the other person. And usually we underestimate. And so I would caution you, if you're starting to work with connectors, don't get into they referred me $58 last week. I referred them $27. So there's a net of $21 or $31 in there that we have to resolve. It doesn't work that way. It's never the scales never even up. Over time, they do. And who's to say that Leslie doesn't introduce me to someone who introduces me to someone else, who introduces me to someone else, and they become my biggest client ever. And for me to trace it back to Leslie, never going to happen. And I'm someone who speaks to a lot of people. I get calls all the time like, hey, you spoke, you did a Zoom thing. My wife was there. She told me to call you. I have no clue what event it is, who I was talking to. And they're like, no, my wife said you're amazing. You answered her questions. Like, oh, that's great to hear. Thank you so much. What led you to call me? Oh, she said I should call you because you can help me with this problem. Okay, tell me more. And I think by the nature of all of you participating, oh, Leslie, I'm getting some feedback. I think it's you. Yeah. Did you want to say something? No, okay. By the nature of the fact that you are participating in this event, I think you probably qualify as connectors. And I will tell you one more thing about being a connector. The more I connect other people, the more I get connected to people. It is amazing to me. And there's a great book called The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. It's a business book. It's about $15. And Bob Berg's whole idea is that we buy from, or we interact, we sell to, or people who buy from us or take our services or goods are people that know, like, and trust us. Know, like, and trust. The minute they meet you, you'd say, well, they know me. No, they don't know you. You've now spent almost, 4 hours with me? You're getting a feel for me. You didn't know the first 5 minutes. Yeah, oh, well, okay, seems like he's nice, seems like he knows what he's doing. But now you've gotten to know a little bit more about me. And so, no, like is really important. And that gets back to what you were saying, Leslie, about the whole idea that allowing the person to process whatever concern they have, the negative or the regret or whatever it is, that's the like part. If you can listen to that, they're going to like you, because we as humans love to give our opinions. So funny when I say that, the guy's sitting in front of you talking for an hour and a half. It's so funny that I say that. But we love to talk about ourselves. We love to think that we're right. So that gets us to the like. So we have no, we have like, and now trust. One of the ways we can establish trust is when we allow the person to say what's real for them and not combat it. We live in a society now that is so busy polarizing. You either agree or disagree. There's no middle ground. I don't have discussions with people about agree or disagree. I have discussions about what's the middle ground. If someone says, I completely disagree with you, I was speaking last week and someone said, I completely disagree with you. I was like, tell me more. And it was a Zoom thing. The woman was like, really? I'm like, yeah, I loved it. I want to learn. So she started to say something and she didn't really have a good argument. And she stopped 2 sentences in because she realized I had done my homework. I said, well, I appreciate you, checking me. If there's something else I say over the next hour that rubs you the wrong way, please stop me and let's discuss it. She didn't say a word. Afterwards, she went to the organizer and said I was the best speaker they ever had. The organizer, I had tipped the organizer off that this had happened. He asked her, well, why is that? And she said, he actually listened to me. It doesn't cost you a whole lot to listen. And the more you listen to people, the more they'll tell you. Leslie and I, this came about because we had a discussion where it was really, here's what we want to, Leslie said, here's my vision. Where can you plug into it? 1, are you interested? Yeah, sure, I'd love to work with you again. 2, what do you bring to it? 3, how can we make it work? We had alignment. I knew her, I liked her, I trusted her. Once those 3 things were in place, our discussion got very easy. And it's funny to me that when I get someone, when I'm doing talking to people about coaching, if they know, like, and trust me, I'm not selling them. I'm just going, so here are the options. Can sign up today and I'll give you a discount because it's the end of the month and I'd love to hit my quota. You can wait till next month, but it's going to go up, or you can wait for however long you want to be stuck in trouble. Your choice. And then just shut up and listen. And it works really well. And I used to feel like I was just a used car salesperson. But now I feel like I'm just giving people options.
Yeah.
So you can do
I like that. Yeah, I like when we get to this part of these workshops because it really builds on what we were talking about in the very beginning, which is making sure you know what it is you have to offer and solving their, because it's not just, oh, I'm giving, oh, I need to be able to do X, okay. So here you just gave 3 different options. And often when you, especially if I'm helping a patron or if I'm dealing with a community organization or, I'm gotta get a grant or something, I always come at them with more than one option. And hardly ever is anyone ever prepared for that. Everybody is so conditioned to it's this or nothing.
Right.
That when you come to them with, we can do this, we can do a scaled back version, we can do a more intense version. They're kind of blown away of like, well, and then my favorite thing is, well, what do you think? And then you're just like, oh, well, they're in. Which one do you think the library wants to do? And I'm like, I want all of the money. I want the big grants. Like, let's be big.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's where Stephen Covey in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talked, one of his habits was look for win-win. How do you make it a win for the person and a win for you? And I got to tell you, if you can find a way to make it a win for them, often it's a win for you. I deal with a lot of companies who have a lot of issues, and it's like they'll say, no, we can't change our hours. Why not? Well, the employees don't want to work later. Well, it seems to me if they worked like 4 10-hour days and you staggered it, they'd have an extra day off. Have you talked to them about that? No. Can I talk to them? Talk to the employees. They did cartwheels. They're like, can we start it right now? Half of them worked Monday to Thursday, half worked Tuesday to Friday. They covered everything. And the employees, the retention was better. They didn't ask for raises that year because they thought they were getting away with something. They felt like they were getting a day off, but they were actually working the same number of hours. And the owner had said, that'll never work. There's no way they're going to go for it. And I was surprised. I thought I'd have to explain to them. As soon as I said, I'm like, how would you feel about 4 10-hour days? And they were like, what days do we get off then? I was like, half of you can have Friday, half of you can have Monday, unless someone wants a Wednesday or Tuesday. I don't care. But I would want a Friday or a Monday so I get a 3-day weekend. They were like, in. Can we start this week? I'm like, well, really need to start on Monday because of payroll and all that. They're like, are you sure? And then they divvied it up and it's like, oh, I want to be off Mondays because of this. It's amazing when you think through and have that ability to explain to people where it's a win for them. And, we talk about the win-win situation. And then the other thing, Stephen Covey, one of his other habits is begin with the end in mind. And I know Leslie does this very, very well. You're probably one of the best models for that. This is what I want to achieve. I'm willing to go through all the zigs and zags as long as I get there by the end. That's where the landing spot is. If I got to drive up the mountain, down the hill, around and over, through the brook and all, no problem. I don't like it, but I'll do it. But I'm getting there. End of story. And so often I find when I talk to people about thinking about the end in mind, that's when their opportunities start to open up. What is the real goal? So if you're launching a new initiative, what's the goal? Are you doing the initiative because the board said we should do it and you didn't really buy into it? Or is it going to improve the customer experience? Is it going to drive more donors? Leslie, if you're going to do something at the library, the end is this should get more people engaged in the library system, one way or another. So if you're going to resurface the parking lots, okay, what's that do for us? Does that make it safer? Does that make it feel newer and fresher and that we're investing in our community? Okay, is that going to cause more people to engage with us? Absolutely. If you're going to get new computers at the library that are faster, okay, what's the end? And from a marketing perspective, I find when I think about the end from the beginning, that's where a lot of my marketing comes in. What is this big deliverable? So if I were talking about this workshop series, at the end of these 5 workshops, you're going to have a real good idea for how to be either starting a business more effectively, more efficiently, or you're going to have some great ideas for an existing business on how to take it to the next level. That was when I mapped this out, that was the goal. Wasn't to talk about marketing one week and to talk about, no, there was a sequence. And once I knew what the end was, I built the steps on the pathway to it. And what I see, especially with a lot of millennials, and I'm not picking on them, it's just what I've observed, they tend to be focused on the end without the steps. And if you work with millennials, you'll see this all the time. It's like, so Leslie, I'd like to have your job in like 3 years. You're like, really? So when are you getting a master's degree, working in the DC libraries for a while, going to the middle of nowhere for a couple of years and really cutting your teeth, and then coming here? When are you good? How do you do that in 3 years? Because it took me about 12. Was it 12? Okay.
I've been at this. I've been in libraries for over 15, but yeah,
Okay.
in management.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get Leslie to realize how much I stalk her on a daily basis. So I know the days to a T. I don't mean anything by that. I'm just having some fun. I'm not stalking her. We're all good. Am I making sense so far?
Yeah, I can dovetail on that too, because when I got the grant to do this project, my goal was for people to see the library as a resource for them who typically wouldn't think of the library. So of course, people who are starting a business, people who are looking for a job, people who are trying to expand something financially, they don't think about the library. People who think about the library are people who want the John Grisham novel, people, right? Like people who want to make a photocopy. So for me, it was easy because who could I bring in? What could I present to them that they weren't going to get anywhere else for free? And then who was going to bring the caliber of information that I needed to solidify the library as that connector or as that reputable place? And so, of course, it was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to see if Bob will do it.
And you have a network of people that you've been cultivating for a number of years for just this situation. So if it hadn't been me, I bet you had someone else that could have done it, or maybe 5 someone else's, because you're constantly collecting those people for when they come in handy. And I always laugh at people. It's like, yeah, I met that guy. Thanks for introducing me. But he can't really help me right now. I'm like, okay, but what if he can help you tomorrow or next Tuesday or in 3 years? Oh, I didn't think about that. Anyone I talk to, I'm like, where can we help each other? Doesn't matter. Tammy, what did I do? When we talked for what, 2.5 minutes, and I connected you with a friend. He'll be tickled that I thought of him and that he can talk to you and you can talk about nonprofits together. He will be like, Bob, I love when you do that. It's so amazing. And most people are like, oh, Bob, really, really you want me to talk to that person? I'll talk to anyone. If Leslie said to me, hey, talk to this person, I don't care what the reason is. I don't even need to know the reason. Just like if Leslie says I should talk to him, I'm going to talk to him. She did when she was working at another job. I talked to someone, got to know him, and he's now one of my clients. All because she said, this is someone you should talk to. So let's get into your situation. Since we have a couple of people here tonight, I'm going to ask you some questions to help you start getting it where the people that have the problem you're trying to solve gather. Okay? So my first question is, what is a common thing that the people that have the problem you solve experience? And you can come up with more than one. So Leslie, off the top of my head, don't have access to internet. Don't have access to a photocopier. Don't have the books they need for school.
Right.
Don't have the resources to find a job. Looking for a place when it's cold or rainy to get out of being outside. I know in DC you dealt with that a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you deal with that down here, but I know when I was in your library in the other place, there were a couple of people that I could tell this was a getaway for the day.
Yeah, we do. It's any community now. So yeah, Tammy's people, I hope they think to come to the library. I hope Tammy sends me her people, like any potential folks she has working through her program. I'd love to think that, hey, I need you to fill out some paperwork. Do you know where you can go to do this? You should go to the library. They'll be excited to see you. Or right. if I'm working with somebody and they're like, oh, housing is really hard. You know what? Let me get you somebody.
Yeah.
Because people don't think about that at the library, but you know what? Especially in larger urban areas, we are absolutely helping with housing. We're helping with find, after school care. I mean, there's all kinds of things at the library.
Kids with math work that their parents can't do. I have a niece who was going to the library and she said, oh, the librarian's so great because she knows algebra. I'm like, how do you know that? She's like, she helps me almost every afternoon. my sister just couldn't do that. And
Yeah.
I had no idea. It's like, wow, how great that my niece can find that at a library. Not the traditional perspective I have of a library, not why I go in there, but that's the thing. And we find when we're dealing with our customers or our patrons or our donors or our volunteers that their motivations can be all over the place. And the more we can collect that full list, the better off we can be. The more we can tailor a message to them, and also not say something like, really? You go to the library to do your algebra homework? Which is what I said to my niece. She's like, yeah, why wouldn't I? I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a good point. It works for you. But we all have that, we have that view of the world, we have our blinders on, and we don't get outside of it. And the more we can take that in without judgment. Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, you found it at the library. Geez, I wouldn't have thought to do that. That's awesome. I'm so happy you have that, you know. So Tammy, what's a common problem that the people you help have?
When I speak to groups, a lot of times people think we give away houses.
Okay. So that's a faulty perception, right?
Correct.
The people, can I ask you a couple more questions? I'm going to put you on the spot if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, good. I like to get into it. What is something that when you speak to groups, almost everyone in the group is interested in? If they could walk in there and you could hand them a sheet of paper that gave them the one little detail, the one little fact, the one little answer, what would that sheet of paper say?
Wow. A lot of folks don't realize that we service our own mortgages. So
Okay.
we're a mortgage company. We're a construction company. We build our houses.
Mm-hmm.
So operate restores to finance the building of those houses. We also manage volunteers. So we have volunteers that come in, and at the same time, we have to fundraise. So
Mm-hmm.
we're grants, we're running key events. There's a lot of balls in the air.
Sure. Do you guys encourage the people at the restore to donate beyond just paying for what they're getting?
Yes. We
Okay.
roundup program at the end.
Okay.
You are checking out. We ask folks to round up. We continuously have some kind of auction going on, or a raffle ticket, or a little playhouse that you can buy. There's always something that we're trying to get your dollars.
Well, because you have people in that facility when they're at the restore where they're getting great benefit.
Correct.
And when I'm getting great benefit, that's when I'm most susceptible to an additional opportunity. It's like, well, wow, I saved $1,000. I could stroke a check for $100 to these guys. Now, if it were a normal day, I'd be like, I don't have $10. Yeah, I got $3 in my pocket. Here's $3. Or I'm sorry, I gave it the office.
Right.
But when we have that great experience, when we feel like we've saved some money, that's when we want to invest more. That's why if you go to Amazon and buy something and it's on sale, you will get an opportunity to spend more money. They will put something in front of you. And I've worked with websites where we've sequenced it where if you get a sale on something, we're going to put something in front of you that costs about $5 more than the difference between what you bought and what you expected to pay. So you were thinking it was going to be $40. We sold it to you for $30. We're going to find a $15 item to put in front of you because you're going to go, well, I've already got $10 because I saved $10. And what's another $5? I mean, now I'm getting two things. How cool is that? And I don't know, and they look at full price for it. And so we can manipulate people, and not in a negative way, but give them the opportunity to invest more deeply in us.
So the library with COVID, we've had, we didn't want to handle money. right? So we got boxes, and we asked people to pay what they could for prints, for computer prints, instead of billing money. Now the downside is we don't make change.
Right.
So if they don't have anything, we don't get anything.
Right.
But let me tell you, if we're charging 15 cents, more often than not, people just go ahead and put the dollar in.
Yep.
They don't have it this time. The next time they come in, they put a 10 in there and they go, yeah, I've been printing for a week.
Right.
So, right? Like I might be, and we're all like, he printed a page a day for a week.
Right.
And some people who didn't print anything are just thrilled that we helped find their great uncle's cemetery plot, you know, puts a 10 spot in there. It has been so shocking to watch on those books that I'm like, I don't know if I want to go back to the actual payment model.
Sure.
I mean,
and that's what museums in New York were doing. It was pay what you can. And, you know, some people, I was in a Museum of Modern Art, MoMA, and I was watching people while Laura looked at an exhibit, and they were dropping like 20s left and right. And I'm thinking, I wonder what it costs to get in here. And I asked someone, like $14. I'm like, well, they're plus $5 every time. And then there were people who dropped 50s, 220s, and there'd be the people that would just walk in.
Yeah, but listen, it's also saving me staff time, because I don't have staff that are there having to count down the drawer, you know, or make change. I mean, an unattended benefit of something as simple as pay what you can. I mean, it's been remarkable.
Sounds like a great win-win-win situation.
Yeah.
More money, less staff time, and easy customer engagement.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, we lost Ben.
Yeah, we lost her, but it's funny. It's brilliant. It's about.
Oh yeah, her computer must be the one that's.
Okay, I thought it was yours. Okay, that's fine. Sorry, I was just trying to keep track. So Leslie, what are some of the issues? Well, you gave us your list, right?
What's a common thing? Yeah, what's a common thing that my patrons experience? Well, when we talk about my regular users, you know, yeah, they've already found the benefit of the library. But if I try to think about where my non-users are, they need to find a third place, right? My non-users, the problem they're having is that they don't have anywhere to be in the meantime, in between meetings, in between running errands. They just need to get out of the house, or they just need a secondary location to relax, do work,
place to take the kids when it gets hot in the summer.
Right. Or just like, I need to have a meeting. I don't have an office. I work remotely or whatever. And so I don't know that they have found the library, but my non-users are at coffee shops. Yep. They are in lobbies of hotels. Hotel lobbies in larger urban areas are a huge competitor. I feel like they're a competitor for me, because there's usually free Wi-Fi. There's some sort of refreshment, coffee, something adjacent. They're also strategically located. They're comfortable.
It's hard to stay in a hotel and do that these days. I've been harassed in hotels around the country when I've been speaking, because I'll speak in the afternoon and I'll just sit in the lobby in the morning and do my work, watch people. And within 2 hours, the security guard's coming up. Hey, can you show us your room card?
Wow.
Well, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm not paying them. In that case I am, but if I'm not a patron and I'm sitting there drinking their free coffee and taking their free newspaper and taking one of the really nice seats by the entrance so I can see everyone.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Hotels would be a place to look for people. It strikes me that the Chamber of Commerce might be someone where you could say to, hey guys, if you get people coming in looking for co-working places or places where they can just work besides home, here's the list of branches.
Yeah.
Here's a flyer that addresses that, that says the easiest co-working place in the county, and it doesn't cost you $1. Wow. Now I'm in, right? And that out of the box thinking is what creates opportunities. Most people want to do what they've always done. Most people are playing by the rules that have been established 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. When you can break out of it and do what I call being a renegade, that's when really cool opportunities arise. That's why I was telling you, Tammy, about the group, the Facebook group I started with a friend, Tom, that I want to connect you with, called Ring of Renegades. And we believe renegades are people trying to carve their own unique pathway to success, whatever success is. It could be doubling your donations. It could be doubling the number of people that are using the library. It could be me, speaking 40 times this year, whatever success is to you. But we really are trying to gather people together who don't want to just do what they've always done. The people that say, what if? How about this? So if you've seen, you've watched the 3 presentations now, this is not your typical entrepreneurship workshop series. This is a renegade approach at this. If you wanted the mini MBA course, you came to the wrong place. I'm not going to talk about profit loss. I'm not going to talk about the best risk management strategies. 1, I don't know, and 2, I don't care. I'm focused on what I know. And if those things are what you want, that's fine. Just go look elsewhere. It's out there. So as we think about this, let me ask you another question. What's something you could say to the people? Leslie, what could you say to the people in the that run the hotel? When they want to run the people out, how can you have that discussion with them and take advantage of that opportunity? Tammy, how can you take advantage of the people who don't understand all the facets of what you do? I got her thinking. She's thinking hard.
No, I'm just
all the way here.
It's been a long day.
Amen.
We do what you do. We try to get out and speak to the different groups. We speak to civic groups. We are connected to the Chamber of Commerce. We are getting our flyers out there, our information out there. We have rack cards. And we do try to think outside of the box.
Have you tried any kind of different messaging to appeal to more targeted groups of people? Because one of the things we see in marketing these days is that the more you can tailor the marketing to the person, the more effective it is.
We just recently put together a rack card for legacy, and we actually went after all of the lawyers within Carteret and Onslow County, and we
nice
them the rack cards, and then we had staff go back and follow up and say, did you get the rack cards? Do you need more? Just simply because folks of that generation, a lot of times they'll come into a lawyer's office and want to do a legacy and don't know who to donate to. And so if that rack card's sitting right there behind that lawyer, well, he can say, well, here's a few rack cards and there's Habitat.
Was that your idea?
No, sir, I can't take credit for that. We have a lawyer on our board. And
okay.
He stated that that happens a lot.
But you executed it.
Yes.
That makes you a renegade in my book.
Okay.
And here's why. I would say that's an out-of-the-box idea that I bet in the board meeting, at least one board member said, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea, right?
Expense. They talked about expense.
which is code for it's not a good idea.
It's change.
Yeah, you got it. That you hit right where I was going.
Yeah.
Very few people are comfortable with change.
I've made lots of changes in the 2 years that I've been the executive director, a lot of streamlining. We've gone to a lot of digital. We've gone to a lot of online. We've gotten away from paper, and it's made a lot of folks uncomfortable.
Yep. You and Leslie should talk. Leslie's gone through a lot of change. She's led a lot of change. You could probably have like a support group for women who have dealt with the ordeals of having change thrust upon people.
I'm kind of familiar with Leslie's issues.
She reads the paper, Bob.
I used to be on Friends of the Library in Newport.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. But, you know, that's the hard thing. And that's one of the things that I try to work with people on is not to give up the idea of improving things because it seems hard or because people, you know, say, oh, that'll never work. And I remember having drinks with Leslie at another job a couple of years ago, and she seemed pretty dejected because she was doing a lot of stuff and it was just difficult. And I remember saying to her, you know, keep the course, stay the course, keep doing it. Don't give up, don't give up. And I remember driving home and the whole way praying and thinking, please don't let her give up. She's doing what needs to be done. And we've got to be true to that. You know, I feel like I'm an agent of change. It manifests itself in many different ways. It manifests itself in the way I do these presentations. If you don't like it, hey, guess what? You didn't pay a whole heck of a lot. If Leslie doesn't like it, that's a different problem, but she knows me and we're aligned. And I've got a pretty loose leash with her. I've earned that. And I wouldn't burn her. You know, if I was going to do something completely off the wall, I'd be like, Leslie, just give you a heads up. I'm going to go haywire for about an hour. You might want to just cover your la, 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 la. But, you know, we have that. But what I try to do and what I try to coach people on is find the people who believe in you and garner their support, get their input. So it's one, that they support you, but two, they might tell you things and say, hey, Leslie, if you're going to do this, watch out for this landmine. And the people that support you will tell you what the landmines are because they want you to be successful. And secretly, they want to stand right behind you as you make that big change and come in after you and go, I was with her the whole time. I was in on that. But if it goes south, they're going to be the ones be like, I told her. I said there was going to be a concern. And we see this time and again. And we see this as entrepreneurs. As entrepreneurs, I can't tell you how many people have told me don't do something. And then they're like, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And I've done it, and it's worked. And part of that is because if we're committed to doing something, we will find a way. If you were committed to doing the rack cards in lawyers' offices, you would have found a way to do it. It may not have been the way you thought it originally, but you would have figured it out and you would have found the language. And if you did it one year and it was horrible, you might come back the second year and been like, you know, I think we need to change the messaging. Or these are too big because they don't fit where they have space, or they're too small, or we shouldn't give it to the lawyer, we should give it to their assistant because they're the ones who actually interact with the customer. We learn all those things as we go. And I think we as entrepreneurs think that we should know all those things up front, that I should have the perfect solution to the situation before I start down the path. But in fact,
Bob, do you think that there's a correlation between entrepreneurship and being a change agent? Because every time, the more we do these, the more we slowly we skirt around this idea of being a change agent. And I think maybe we need to embrace that theory more often when we talk about it, because I think now anybody that would walk into the Newport Library now would, their mouths drop open. That is how much dramatic change happened in that library. Staff worked really, really hard. Staff had a vision. I understood and knew what needed to change. And now when you walk in, it feels, looks, smells completely different. And it's been amazing. It's remarkable, and it's a fantastic space that we are now, having been successful, we can be unapologetic about the pain that people felt with the change, and we're empathetic to it. Yes, we're sorry you don't see any familiar faces. That can be hard. We go through all of that with them, and then we do the big reveal of, look at all the new books, look at the new seating, look at all the tables. And then we have the ability to be unapologetic about, we're so excited that we were able to make this change for you.
Here's where I worry about that, Leslie. I think you're absolutely right. Entrepreneurship and being agents of change are very intertwined, but many entrepreneurs don't want to be change agents. They want to solve one very clear problem that they've experienced or they understand. And when you say to them something as big as, you're an agent of change, whoa, no, I'm just fixing this one little piece of the world. It's like, oh, you have a lovely garden. Would you like to take over these 80 acres? No, I just like my little 4x4 plot. I can manage it. I got my tomatoes. I got my lima beans. Well, you'd be great with 80 acres. No, 80 acres is way too much. I wouldn't know what to do with that. How do you water it? Blah, blah, blah. I think we have that same fear as entrepreneurs. Plus, being an agent of change, whether it's just as an entrepreneur with one little problem or one big problem, it's all the same thing. And it's hard work. It's nonstop. Your work is not quick and easy. Every day is another challenge. And just when you think you've zigged and zagged and gotten to that end point that you were looking for, something else comes up. The grant organization they had a shortfall this year. We lose. I mean, I see that all the time in my business. A year right before the pandemic, I had 6 or 7 speaking engagements lined up for 2020. I was going to make more money from that than I thought was possible. And in the course of 48 hours, all gone. Wait a second, I did all that work. I did everything right. They wanted me. Well, we're not doing our conference this year. We're doing it online. We're only paying 10%. That's the challenge for the entrepreneur. I mean, I've talked to entrepreneurs who the bank said they would fund their startup, and then at the last minute, the person at the bank changed, the leadership changed, money's gone like that. I've seen, I worked with a company that had a production process that was in the marketplace working, and then it got stopped because they were doing smoothies, organic smoothies, and they needed to get organic vanilla seed. Couldn't get it anywhere in the world. Wasn't available. There was such a demand around the world for it, they couldn't afford it. That started them on a trajectory where they ended up going out of business because they couldn't get their supplies. Even though they had a customer base, they were in Kroger's, they were in Publix, they were in Wegmans, they were in all kinds of grocery stores. They couldn't get the product. And I heard the owner speak. He's a friend, and he was speaking, and I caught him, and he said, sometimes you do everything right, and that change you're trying to create doesn't happen. And that doesn't mean you failed. He looked at a group of 150 business people and said, if there's anyone here who thinks I'm a failure, tell me what you've done. Tell me how I failed. I did this thing. I learned so much. We changed lives. I don't think I'm a failure, even though our business went bankrupt. Wow.
So how can I get those folks who didn't agree with the change, aren't interested in the net result of change. They still have a need for library service. So how can I be better at continuing to provide an invitation and this open door of, you know, we're still here, we're still the same library, we just look a little different, the people here are a little different, but we still have your same, you know, that's the hard part too when you change is you don't want to leave anybody behind, but you still want to reach out to those people who through whatever reason weren't engaging with you in the first place.
Well, first of all, our customers don't like change. Change a website. I've led 70 or 80 website projects, and I can guarantee when I worked on a website project, it would go live on Monday, and by 10 a.m., I got the call from the owner every single time. I want to go back to the old website. What's wrong? I got a complaint. What was the complaint? They couldn't find something they were looking for. Okay, did you tell them that there's navigation at the top? Did you walk them through it? No, they were so upset. Could you call them back and have them call me? They'd call me and I'd be like, all right, let me walk you through how to do this. And then they go, oh, wow, this is really better. I'm like, yeah, try it on your phone. Oh, really? It works on my phone? Yeah, it works on your phone. Ah, that's really cool. Hey, thanks. This is great. I got to tell some friends. This is, we've got to find the way to help people understand what you just said. It's the same library. It's still got everything that you were used to. Maybe the people are different, but the guts of it remain. And most of us with our business mission, what we started with, that problem that we solved, that we talked about at the very beginning, this is why I got into this, this is why I'm doing it, this is the problem I solved, that doesn't change. How we talk about it might change. The pricing might change. Some of the components might change, but I would tell you the core remains. It's the seed in the avocado. I can make an avocado into guacamole. I can make avocado into slices. I can make toast with it. I can do all kinds of things with avocados. But that pit in the middle, it's not going anywhere. They're hard to get out and they're hard to cut. And who the hell would cut it in the first place? It's unless you want to grow avocados, there's no use to it. And I think if you think about that core and remain true to that core as you're making changes and making sure that you're true to whatever that core mission is. If your mission, Leslie, is to help people engage in the library, to grow the opportunities in the community for the library, and every decision you make runs through that test, that's the filter it runs through, you'll never deviate. And the people that will dislike it briefly, and then they'll be like, yeah, okay, it's not that bad. I mean, I was in a community where they changed the roads. For some stupid reason, they changed two roads. One went one way, and the other went the other way, and they switched it. One of the silliest things ever, the merchants were upset because the people on the left side, it was hard to park, and the people on the right side, so they switched it. Well, it was a mess. They had people going the wrong way down the road. They had crashes. They had all kinds of problems for about 7 weeks. And then in the 8th week, life went back to normal. A different problem arose and they moved on. And that's part of the thing that I see with a lot of my clients. The crisis of today that seems so acute in the moment, a month from now, gone. When I was teaching college, I'd say to students, you know, they're like, oh, this exam is like the most important test of my life. And I'm like, no, it's not. I can't tell you my score on any exam from college 35 years ago. You'd be like, oh, come on. I'm like, I don't even think I could tell you my GPA. I'm not even sure I could tell you half the courses. They're like, oh, come on. I'm like, no, this is going to blow out of your life and be just a distant memory really soon. Don't magnify it more than it needs to be. And I think as an entrepreneur, I've had to learn to try to stay even as the ups and downs arise. And for me, it's hard because I have months where I make a lot of money and I have months where I make no money. And I have weeks where I have lots of appointments and things going on. And this is a really slow week. This is one of 3 things I'm doing this week. Normal week's about 10. And I've spent the whole week like, oh, I'm a failure. Oh, this was a stupid idea. What was I thinking? Going through the whole mental catalog of this was a dumb idea, all because it just so happens this is the week that 2 of my biggest clients happen to go out of the country. So they're not available. And someone else is sick with COVID. I didn't think those things out until just now and put it all together and go, oh, this is totally out of my control. I took it to be, oh, my idea doesn't work. My change isn't going to work. I'm out. Time to find a full-time job, move on. It's been real. I mean, I literally have had that thought go through my head over and over and over this week. And that's part of the challenge of an entrepreneur is having the network of people around you that when you have those thoughts, they go, dude, you're on the right track. What do you mean? Like I had one friend I was talking to about this today, and he's like, so you're going to complain to me. You're doing what you love to do. You're speaking tonight to a group. They're paying you. You're speaking about a topic you love, and you're complaining. How many people do you think we both know who would give anything to do what they love tonight at 6 o'clock? And he said, you're not even complaining about being in the evening. I'm like, no, I love it. I don't care what time. I'd do it at 4 in the morning if that was the right time. It's like, and you're complaining. And we're always thinking that it should be easy and perfect. And it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be perfect. I'm a perfectionist. I'm learning to just accept that when if I do this presentation and get to that, I'm like, oh, it's really horrible. And I think it's horrible, and I'm complaining to myself, and Bob, you really got to do this and this. And then tomorrow someone sends me, oh, that was amazing. I'm not the best judge of what I'm doing. We aren't the best judge. We're not the best critic. That's why when we start to look at things through our customers' eyes, that's what grounds us. As we go through those emotional ups and downs and that fear of, am I changing the world too much? The best example I can think of is Steve Jobs. And if you read the book Jobs by Walt Isaacson, I'm sure Leslie can get that book. She's got at least one copy in there. Great book. Steve Jobs believed that the iPhone had to have a glass screen. It was non-negotiable. He fired people, he transferred people, he berated people who said it can't be done. They want plexiglass, they want plastic. You can't do glass, Steve, it's not going to work. And he would not give up. He knew that glass would create a better experience. You'd see more clearly, there wouldn't be distortion, it wouldn't scratch as much. Yes, it could break, but it wouldn't scratch. And he wouldn't give up on that. And Johnny Ive, one of his closest associates in Apple, said to him repeatedly, Steve, this isn't going to work. Give it up, Steve. No, I'm not giving it up. Here I sit. Steve Jobs is come and gone. It's a glass screen. He knew that was a change that was for the better, and he was undeterred. And when I get frustrated by the slowness of change or the frustration of people not getting on board with me, I go back and think about Steve Jobs. His investors told him he was crazy. His competitors, Bill Gates said, you're crazy, Steve. He heard it universally. Didn't stop him. He knew something was right. And Leslie, I've seen you. I know what you do. You're unstoppable. When you know what you're trying to achieve, you'll give a little ground, but you've got that purpose. It doesn't go away. That's why you're good at what you do. What makes it hard for us is when we say, well, I want to make this change, and then we go, never mind. That's when people start to question our integrity. That's when They don't know, like, and trust us when they can't trust us. If you tell people you're going to repave the parking lot at Newport in August, you better repave the parking lot in August. Not September, not July. You said August. If you don't know it's going to be August, don't tell them August. And we do that in business a lot. You know, we say, oh, we're going to have that update. I was talking to a software company. Oh, we're going to have that update next week. Well, that was 9 weeks ago. You say, well, we ran into problems. I don't care. I need that solution. You gave me the answer. I didn't say tell me a week or nothing. And we often bite ourselves by saying things that we can't make true. You know, there's a whole idea of under promise and over deliver, right? I've learned if you tell me, I used to be the one, like if someone said, hey, can you get me a proposal? I'm like, yeah, you'll have it tomorrow morning. Why am I doing it's 5 o'clock. Why am I going to do it overnight? What is wrong with me? So whatever I think in my head now, I double. So if I think something's going to take a week, I automatically tell the person 2 weeks. And I'm expecting them to go, oh, geez, I really thought this would only take a week. Usually they're like, oh, that's awesome, Bob. I'll look for it in 2 weeks. That was easy. You know, but we seem to think we don't want people to think that we're not doing our best work. But most of the time, people don't know. Like, I'm a really quick writer. If you said to me, write a press release, I can write a press release for you in probably 45 minutes. And when I was doing that professionally, I would sit there and go, oh, it takes me about an hour, so I'll charge the person $100. A friend of mine was doing it. She's like, yeah, it takes me about 5 hours. I charge him $500. I'm like, what? So I started charging $500, and it still took me 45 minutes, but I was charging what she was charging. And sometimes that's part of it. And also understanding what our customer needs, not what they want. I didn't say what they want, because what our customers want is free, free, free. You know, if the library books can only be out for 3 weeks, they want 4. If you changed it to 4, they'd want 4.5. If you changed it to however long you want, they'd be like, well, I don't really want to ever bring it back. Well, I'm sorry, that kind of doesn't work. And look at you, we're going to see in the next couple of years a real challenge for Amazon, because they've got this 2-day delivery, and then in places like Baltimore, where I live, it's same day for a lot of stuff. They can't undo it. And if they double their rate for Prime, people are going to flip out. And then look at Chick-fil-A. All the delivery options that, you know, we'll bring it to your house. You can come here, you can go in the line, you can order online and we'll bring it out to you. All those things, they're stuck. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's not, but there's where they saw the customer need. I'm curious to see in the next year or two, as things become whatever they become, will those companies be able to stop that? Just like you said, Leslie, I was thinking about your example where, you know, we're taking books out to people. I think you're stuck. I do not think you'll go away.
I know. The day we decided to do it, I told everybody, this genie will never go back in the bottle.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a great thing.
I think it's a great thing. I mean, I think people want that. I think the innovative thing going forward is any time I will ever be involved in a project with building a library, it will have a drive-through. I mean, that's the answer.
I love that idea. I love that idea. I think the whole concept of drive-through libraries, I was thinking about this the other day after the last session. I'm like, Leslie should just go out there and go to libraries and be like, I got an answer for you. Buy some of these closed down banks and put a small library branch in there and get them at, you know, the library.
Every closed Rite Aid. I want every closed Rite Aid, period, on the planet needs to be a library.
Our Rotary group's involved in free little libraries. So we're building little boxes and we're putting them all over Carteret County.
My wife has one on our property. And I think, getting to your point, Leslie, wouldn't it be amazing if you could work it out when you think win-win-win? The people that lease those bank branches or Rite Aids aren't getting that money once they close down. I bet they would deal with the library because they could write off that property. And it brings people to the other merchants. You got an eyesore or you got a library branch. And I think in a community like where I live, you could have 10 of them around the county, and it would change the whole library experience. And I think you'd also get people going into the branches that have never been into the branches because like, well, we only have a small collection of books here. If you'd like our full collection, go to our main branch, and you're going to have to go inside, but ask for Leslie, she'll help you. Oh, okay, great. I think that's one of those really innovative ideas that you should really look at. I bet you could get some grant funding for that.
Oh yeah. Pamlico County took over a former fast food place, and they were gonna wall up the drive-through.
Oh.
And their director was like, no, please don't. We'll figure it out. And they were in the final planning stages, and she was able to get them to go back. Yeah.
It's brilliant. And I love how you think outside the box. And it's exciting to me when you get around people who think outside the box. It sparks you to think outside the box. That's one of the things that's important to me about building this Facebook community, is getting people together who want to think outside the box, not let me do what I've always done. But the minute you tell me you're having great success, well, what's next? How are you building on that? And I think that's what drives results. So we've gone about an hour and a half. Do I have any questions? I guess not. Awesome. So let me give a preview for next week. This is going to be good. Watch this, Leslie. You want to see really, really awesome preview? So next week, we're going to have a business roundtable. I'm going to be talking to some of the business leaders in your community. I know they're from different industries and different areas of success. You may say this will be a complete waste of time. I couldn't disagree with you more. I am thrilled to get to be around leaders. Whenever I'm around leaders, I learn. And I can tell you, I'm a trained journalist, and I get to ask the questions. They're going to answer some hard questions. This is not going to be, so tell me about your landscaping business and how great it is. This is going to be, so what was the biggest challenge you found when you were starting your business? What's the number one complaint you get from your customers? I'm going to hold their feet to the fire because I want us to learn. It's a great opportunity for all of us, including me, to learn. So I would encourage you to come to that one live, if at all possible, because if you put your questions in the chat, I'll ask your questions too. So there you have it. And then our final week, Leslie, I totally blanked. I know we talked about what it was going to be. We were going to talk about what on the last week?
We're going to talk about funding opportunities.
Yeah, that's what it was, funding opportunities. And I was working on that today. So you don't want to miss these last two. The funding discussion will be everything from how to find grants, how to find banks that are interested, to I've got some really creative ways to like bootstrap a company, like a little bit of fun and a little bit of asking family members. And I've even gone to people and said, hey, you're going to give me a Christmas gift. Why don't you just give me a check right now so I can put it into buying books for my business? And they go, oh, that's really awesome, Bob. My mother bought me a birthday gift that was embroidering 5 shirts with my logo. And she loved it. Every time she sees one of those shirts, she is like, I paid for this. And it was one of those things. It was like $58, but it's what I needed, and it was just going to the right person. So we will talk about some of those strategies in 2 weeks, but that roundtable is going to be awesome. I promise. How's that? All right, folks, Thank you so much. I hope this was useful. If you have questions, Leslie's going to include my email this week. Feel free to reach out to me and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll give you that information as well, or you can look me up. Cool? Thank you.
Awesome. I do want to let everybody know that we do have an official Google event scheduled with the library on April 1st at 6 p.m.
How fortuitous. April
Right.
Fool's Day?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, it really is on that day. It is going to be someone from Google. So it is an official Grow with Google partnership event. They are going to show us all of the free business resources available through the Google platform. But you do have to register. All of that registration information is on the library's website. It's on our program calendar. It's also on our events calendar on Facebook. I will also be emailing that to all of the folks who are registered for this program.
And you don't have to be in the county, right? You could be outside that area even. So if
Google
you have
is universal. Yeah.
So if you
Google
have
is universal.
friends in business or trying to achieve anything, I've been to one of these events. It's amazing what they have to offer. It is like your chin will hit the floor with all the things. It really is amazing. So that's coming up April 1st. So busy couple of weeks, but that's great. Take care, everyone. See you next week for the roundtable. See you, Tammy. Thanks. No, I don't want to report her. Okay, sorry. Stop.